Yeah, assume that it's 10. Okay. So now we have trained the data. The next step is to make the prediction. The last step. So predict equal to 150 and then what should be that. So as per our expectation, 150 and 0.
Please mute yourself.
Let's see what it is. So that is so don't change anything. But for the same, I was saying so that
Okay, good morning, everybody. Warm welcome to Antwalk.
Good morning, sir.
So we
Good
have,
morning, all. This is Sahib from Afroza Group.
hi guys. Thanks for coming on time on a Sunday morning. Really appreciate it. I think we have a very good session coming up today. I will quickly get started. I'm just going to give another 2 minutes for people to join in. We have a fantastic registration today. We have close to 300 people who have shown interest in this session. It's going to be an extremely interesting session. We have a very good speaker coming in and giving us guidance on day in the life of a cyber incident analyst. So just hold on for a couple of minutes. Let me get everybody in the room and then we'll get started. Thanks for the patience. All right. Let's get started. Once again, warm welcome to the Antwalk series. It's an AMA session today in the cybersecurity domain. Today, the topic of conversation is, day in the life of a cybersecurity analyst. And without ado, let me introduce our speaker today. Once I introduce our speaker, we will go through a variety of questions. They're roughly broken into 3 segments. One is, what does the day in the life of a cyber incident analyst look like? We will also look at the overview of incident management as a function within cybersecurity. And last but not the least, soft skills, how important they are for a cybersecurity professional and how one should prepare for those. And of course, please put in your questions in the chat box. We will take as many questions as possible. And let me get started now with our speaker for the day. Welcome, Parul.
Thank you, team.
Parul, let me just quickly introduce you to the team here, to the attendees here. Parul is a SOC subject matter expert with close to 7 years of experience in this domain. She has worked with marquee companies like Cognizant and Accenture during this tenure, and currently she is working at Advanced Auto Parts as a senior security engineer. Parul brings with her a strong expertise in a multitude of domains within cybersecurity, like CM, SOC, networks, VM, and compliance. And Parul is also a certified ethical hacker, a Splunk professional, and a Qualys certified VM specialist. Parul, a warm welcome to the session today. I think there's a lot of interest in what you have, the guidance you have to share. I can already see close to 100 people on the call, and I'm sure a lot more will join. So welcome once again.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be part of the team.
Cool.
Just a quick thing, sorry, Sriram. I'd request the participants to please stay on mute and please not unmute yourself during the session. Whatever questions you have, please address it in the chat. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Kaushik. So let's get started. So Parul, I think before people start, posting their own questions, let me get started with a few of my own.
Sure.
Could we start with saying, who is a cyber incident analyst?
Yeah, so that's a very generic and the first question that comes to anybody's mind when we are talking about a baseline called cybersecurity. So now you have put the word incident analyst, right? So here he has to deal majorly on the incident. So a cybersecurity analyst who is an incident responder is somebody who monitors the security infrastructure of the organization and reacts to any anomaly that is detected. And that anomalous activity, that's what you call it as an incident.
Hmm.
Yeah, so for any abnormal activity throughout your networks or your user segment, your entire security infrastructure, if there's any anomaly and that has caused an incident, you as a cyber incident responder are responsible for the end-to-end management, right from the preparation strategy of that particular incident till the time of the closure.
Got it. Got it. So what does a typical day look like for a cyber incident analyst?
Sure. So, I mean, it depends on a multitude of reasons or a variety of reasons that what kind of SOC you are into, what are your use cases, what are the tool sets that you use. But in general, if you have to talk about an incident analyst, so there are a variety of tools and technologies that are used for security monitoring. The typical security eye on glass monitoring. And to begin with, the first and the foremost thing that comes handy to a security analyst is SIEM platform, which is Security Information and Event Management. And then there are other couple of tools like you are monitoring your email gateways, your EDRs, which is your endpoint detection response. So there's a variety of tool sets that you use to monitor the anomalous activity or the security incidents that we were talking about. So as you walk in, now security is a domain where the show runs throughout the clock. It's 24/7, 365 all the time because there isn't a specific 9 to 5 timing where your attacker will come and attack you, right? So it's like you always have to start from where you left your work yesterday. Post that, what are the different incidents or alerts that have come in? What were those alerts? Get an alert summary from your previous shift individuals, your peers. What exactly was the action taken? Are there any progress items left? So these are the kind of things that you will first understand, and based on that, you will start working for the day. That okay, these are the alerts or the incidents that are yet in pipeline, which I'm supposed to work. What is the work? What is the follow up I need to do? And also at the same time, the alerts that come into your own shift or on your own office time, that's where you will spend more time. You will spend more time analyzing an incident that, okay, what was the root cause, how it happened, when it happened, what are the remediation steps do I need to take? All of these things, you will spend a lot of time analyzing those incidents, documenting all these stuff. And because security parameters and landscape keeps changing every day you'll have to keep yourself really updated in a way that okay, were there any recent threats discovered yesterday? Are these applicable to my organization? What were the indicators of compromise? How can I check whether I may be impacted by this or not? So you will run those checks against the logs in your environment. So it's like you always have to be on your toes. You always have to be proactive and at the same time reactive. So proactive is when you're trying to see that okay, everything is normal, there's no anomalous activity, the organization is safe and secure. And reactive is more when an incident has already happened and now you have to you know be in those shoes that okay, I need to contain the situation, I need to eradicate the entire incident till the end. So this is more around like how do you generally spend your day.
Got it. Uh, Parul, I think what will put everything under context is, if you can take a couple of minutes to share one or two incidents that you had to, address and how that kept you busy at work, and what kind of actions you had to actually take to resolve that incident.
Sure. So, I mean, being in this domain for around 7 years, I have dealt with so many security incidents. But the one that actually kind of kept me awake for almost 2 complete days was one with was a very massive phishing campaign with one of my previous clients.
Hmm.
So, if I remember correctly, it had an organization size of around, let's say, 40,000 employees or so.
Hmm.
And out of around 8 or 10,000 employees, they got a phishing email. And the pretext of the email was that it had come from the payroll department of the same organization, and it came around month end where you generally receive your pay slips and all. And the mail looked really kind of legitimate. So the attacker did a good job, in spoofing the emails and crafting the email in a very organization format. So it looked like there was some, I mean, I don't remember the subject exactly, but some policy changes in the payroll department. And the email had a URL in it. And once you click on that URL, it will take you to a web page, and it will ask you to give your organization email ID and password. Basically, it was a credential stealer.
I see.
And out of 8 to 10K employees who got that email, around, let's say, 3,000 employees actually clicked that email, and that all happened in a span of 1 hour or so. And they gave their credential. So this was a P1 incident for us, where when you say 3,000 against a 30, 40,000 organization employee count, 10% of your org count is already under a compromised situation. The attacker has their email ID and passwords. And I mean, out of them, many could be system administrators. Their credentials can be used to create a lot further damage. So this is one example of a huge cyber incident that happened. So the first thing that we are supposed to do, I mean, containing the situation at the moment, that, okay, those 3,000 that has leaked, that's one thing. And the other 7,000 that are still lying in the mailboxes but has not been clicked. These two were the situations that we wanted to contain. So for the first 3K ones, what do you think we would have done? A password reset, right? So it was a massive password reset. It wasn't just the case that, a customer service desk or help desk team can help us do that. So with the help of identity and access management folks, our own folks. So security is a lot much about collaboration between different teams. So we had those password reset. Then we also spoke with our email gateway team, so that whoever got that particular email, it has to be revoked back. It has to be pulled back from their mailboxes, right? So there was a huge processes involved, and that URLs, who has clicked, scanning their machines, that post that URL click, did they download something malicious? So it was, I mean, if I have to explain the entire thing, it would be to probably take the entire session. But these are the kind of incidents that you can expect when you are working as a cyber incident responder.
Very interesting. Yes. Actually, there's a similar question on similar lines. This is from Sushant. If a ransomware happens in the company, what is the procedure? What all steps go on how to minimize the risk? And what are the steps that are typically taken to protect it from future happening?
So I think, Sushant, you have combined 4 to 5 questions into one, because you've also asked about the risk management. How do you reduce the risk? You've also asked about the incident response plan when the ransomware is already there. And I think there's one more question you attached to it, that how do you keep yourself safe from it, right? So risk management is altogether a different scenario, and that is something you deal more when you're into compliance side of the security. But to give you an idea of it, so when you're saying a ransomware attack, how does that really happen, and what exactly is the consequences? So in general, if there is a ransomware attack, your system would be compromised. You will just get a note on your screen that, hello, I've already compromised your system. I have encrypted all your files, all your data. If you need your data back, you need to purchase the key, and here's the ransom amount for that key, right? So in this situation, the best way to minimize the risk is having multiple copies of your data in different data centers, right? When we are talking about org data, having backups of data, even if one system or one server is compromised, but if your data is available on other one, you can quickly, just, I'm getting a lot of noise. Can please someone put them on mute if they're talking? Yeah. So having a data backup always helps. That way you can reduce the risk. So that is about the risk management part. Now, when you're talking about, how did you, what is your action plan like? So that depends where you are in the life cycle of an incident. So for example, the attacker just compromised one system. So I will isolate that system from the entire network so that it does not spread on my network. And then the forensic analysis would happen on that system to understand the root cause. Where did it come from? Had it come from a phishing email, or did it come through clickjacking? Maybe, you tend to see on many websites, right? There would be icons like you click here to win iPhone 11 and things like that. And there are users who might go ahead and click on such links and then end up downloading malwares on your machine. So till the time you find the underlying cause, you cannot predict what next steps you can take. But as a general step, if, as I said, based on the impact, based on the scope of your incident, if it was just one system, you will isolate that system. But had that already spread, it is already in the phase of lateral movement, then your modus operandi, your response plan would differ. So that's a question that is more different, that differs like on a case to case basis, I would say. I hope I answered your question completely.
Cool. I think Rishi had a follow-up question to your earlier, example where the emails for. So he's saying, how did you manage the other 7K employees? So I guess he meant the remaining.
We pulled it from their mailboxes before they could even click. So it was like they never even received that email. They never even saw that email, because from our mail gateway, we do have those rights that we can pull the mails that we do not want an employee to see. We can write rules for that. Yeah.
Cool. Shreyas has a question: is auditing also a part of the job for an analyst?
So if you're a cyber audit analyst, yes. But if we are talking right now about the incidents, so a person who's working on the incidents, so there's a different committee that audits the incident, that was the incident handled in time, or all the incident management best practices followed. These are the kind of things that comes under incident audit. And you as an incident analyst have to take care that you follow all the procedures so that once your tickets are audited, they go in the green zone.
Got it. And the other question he has is specific to auditing. Is the only way to solve problem through logs? Can you give more information about logs?
Give more information about logs. So dealing with the incident is similar to your doctor finding the root cause of your health issue. So he does a lot of tests, right? That, okay, do your blood test or do your urine test and so on and so on. So that's where he's reading the logs, what's wrong with the blood, what's wrong with the urine. Similarly, when you're talking about an incident, till the time you read the logs, now I do not know what's wrong with my Windows registry. Why is this system, communicating to this end machine, which it should not be communicating? Is there an underlying malware there that is triggering that process? Is there any script running? So you need to read those machine logs, right? Next is when you're talking about further logs, network logs. So I had, I'm logging on to my banking website. It is a secured connection. I have given my credentials. It is all going in an encrypted way. So I know it is safe. But if there is a lookalike site, right, which does not really follow any encrypted channel, all my data is flowing in the internet in unencrypted fashion. Anybody can put a sniffer there and get all my data. So where did I miss my data? Where was the loss of data, right? I need to read all the logs to get the background of the story, that where it is wrong. to what I gave the analogy of the doctor. Till the time he reads all your reports, he will not know where the problem is. You said you have a stomach ache, but what is the root cause? You have to scan your entire body sometimes. Similarly, when you're talking about logs, when you're talking about a security incident, sometimes it could be very straightforward that the way we were talking about a phishing incident, right? You know that it has come from an email that because you see in the email gateway log, it's as simple as that. But there could be very critical incidents, very complicated incidents where you need to do a lot of analysis, a lot of research, and logs are the best place to do that.
Understood. Understood. I think we have a lot of questions coming here. I'm trying to filter some to cater to this particular topic. One question is, does server security come under cyber security?
Yes. Cyber is like a broad term. Server is what? It's a device only, right? You talk about laptops, desktops, servers, appliances, virtual machines. All of them, they are devices. And when you're talking about cyber security, all of that fall under same arena.
Got it. Apart from Imran has a question. Apart from day-to-day activities, what extra activities does the SOC analyst do?
Great question, Imran. So I like that approach that, okay, this is I'm doing on a daily basis. What extra can I do? And this is what keeps you ahead in a domain like cybersecurity. So you work in on the day and there are no really alerts, no anomalous activities, but you came to know that, okay, recently Facebook was hacked using this particular technique. Now, pick that article wherever you have read it. See what were the techniques that were used by that attacker. Let's say the attacker used social engineering to gain access, or maybe he did some kind of, let's say, reconnaissance or code scanning to intrude into the network. There are a lot of tactics, techniques, and procedures, the TTPs as we call it, which an attacker can use. Check whether you can find such traces in your logs, right? Or maybe is your organization having enough defenses to protect against such attacks? If you think, yeah, if he does that reconnaissance, I have firewall rules that does not allow an IP to scan more than 50 ports in 30 seconds, so he will get blocked immediately. My organization is safe. If not, you can give that threat report further to the SME to review, and he will probably create a rule on your system to detect such alerts on a future basis. So here you are not just being reactive, you are being proactive, you are writing rules and alerts to secure your organization even from future threats, even though you do not have an incident to tackle right now. So this is one such approach that I think takes you a long way.
Got it. Harsha has a question. Using the CM tool, can't we get a notification that phishing has happened within the network? I believe this is a follow-up to your example.
Yeah, so SIM tool is somewhere where you can integrate different log devices, log sources. So the short answer to your question is yes. You can integrate your email gateway with your SIM solution to get all your alerts flowing in there.
Okay. Vinil is asking, what is the minimum experience one shall have to get started as a security incident analyst?
I think there is no such bar as to you have to be 2 years or 3 years or 5 years of experience. It is really important to have a foundation on security. So if you understand what is phishing, so you are good to go that, okay, I know what is phishing, what are the things I need to be doing to contain a phishing incident. For example, I gave an example, right? You need to, let's say, preset the passwords, and there are a lot of procedures that you need to probably perform. So if you do have a basic understanding on what you're supposed to do on different kind of cyber attacks, like if you have done that foundation courses similar to like what even Antwork is coming up with. So if you have a good foundation on security, I do not think there is a bare minimum kind of a experience mark that any company has that, okay, this is what you should have for a cyber incident analyst. Probably you will start as a very on the very basic level. You are doing the monitoring of the cyber incidents in as a associate to a senior incident responder. You are trying to learn that, okay, what are they doing, how are they doing, and then probably soon you'll start picking up. So absolutely, once you have a good security foundation, you are more than like sufficient to get into this particular role.
Makes sense. Joseph has a slightly different question here. It's a more journey-based question. He wants to ask, tell us your story, how you became a cybersecurity incident analyst.
That's actually a long story. So when I graduated back in 2014, I got campus placed with a company called Cognizant. And I was placed there. And when you really join, you're given kind of options that what are your core strengths, like are you good into coding, and they gave me 2 or 3 streams like Java and things like that. And me coming from an electronics background, coding was definitely not my forte. But I was interested in computer network side from my college days, that this worldwide web, entire world is connected just by internet. How, man? Like, I'm sitting here, you're sitting there, we are connected, right? How does these computer networks work? I had a lot of interest in that, and that was my elective subject even during my engineering. So I said the same to my supervisor, that I'm really interested in computer networks and I want to know more about it. So he was like, would you like to pursue your career in network security? But it could be really a demanding job. You already have to be on your toes. I said, yeah, but I'm interested. So let's have a look on that. And that's where I was sent to a training of almost 30 days. Yeah, around a month or 4 weeks training it was, for network and cyber basics. So that course was similar to the security CompTIA Security Plus certification, and it is also similar to what kind of experiential program that Antwerp has. So I got the really good foundation in that 30 days. And post that, I was put into a project where the network analysts were in abundance, but incident analysts were not really in good quantity. So that's where I got my first chance. I started assisting an L2 analyst and started learning what the kind of incidents come in, what's the difference between a virus and worm. Okay, today this incident came, what did you do? Let me also do it, show me how you did it. And that's how I started my career in incident analyst. And it's 2021 now. There's no looking back. I've shifted different domains of security, and the journey has been amazing.
Got it. On that note, if I had to ask you a question, what is the one thing you like most about this role, and one thing that you hate about the role, if there is something?
So the most interesting thing I would say is you will not get bored of your job if you really like it, because in my 7 years of experience, I have not seen any two incidents which are exactly same. They can be similar, but they're not exactly same. So there's every day you're learning new at work. Every day you are, just running the horses of your brain, that, okay, so attacker can come in this way. So because even attackers are really smart. 10 years back, if they've used the technique to, hack a system, they cannot use that today because that is already passed. Everybody knows about it. So every day there's something new. You're always interesting, what's happening around the world, and it's very a curious domain. But at the same time, if I have to tell the downside of the same umbrella, it's like you have to keep updating yourself, otherwise you are out of the market. Right? So it's like you have to always be on your toes. It's very demanding. You have to keep updating yourself. You have to, think one step ahead of the attacker. So very, very demanding in that sense.
Got it. And typically cybersecurity, roles are there both within organizations and as part of consulting, right? So do you find any difference in the day in the life of a cybersecurity or an incident analyst? when they're working in a company versus a consulting firm?
Yeah, so I have worked in both kind of scenarios where I was doing consulting to different clients. I was a part of service-based company, as you see in my resume. I was a part of Accenture. So there we suggest, what is the best security practices that the client should follow, or either we work on a contractual base role that this is the posture of the organization. You see, you get, let's say, 20 incidents, 30 incidents. This is the service level agreement in which you have to resolve it, and that's how the fashion goes like. But when you are dealing with the internal security of the organization, you are kind of much focused on how do I make it better. So let's say today I did not have any incident, but I have done the incident analysis of last 6 months. I've seen that there are things that are coming up in a repeating fashion, that let's say a particular vulnerability in Windows machine is being exploited repeatedly. And so what my job would be, immediately open a call with vulnerability management team and get that patched, because that is hampering the security of my organization, and I'm as a whole protecting the organization. If the similar thing would have been in case of, let's say, a consulting based role, I can just give a report to my client that this is something that we have seen on a repetitive basis, and you can take the action as what we suggest. But then it is completely on the client how feasible it is for them to take. But when you are the whole and soul owner of security in your organization, you have to make the decisions, you have to take the decisions. So those are the kind of differences which you generally get.
Got it. Got it. I think this is a question that's top of mind for a lot of graduates. Rahul has this question, where to apply for jobs in cybersecurity. It's really hard to find a post without any experience. So how should folks, position themselves to get at least called for some of these interviews?
Okay, so if you say you are specifically looking for cybersecurity jobs, so there are a lot of job boards in today's era. Like if I compare to the job situation 5, 7, 10 years back, today it's in a much better shape. You have access to so many different portals, job boards. So like LinkedIn, Naukri, you have to have the right approach how to search for it. You need to have the right keywords. For example, you want to get into cyber incident analyst role, and so if you just put cyber security jobs, there would be 10 different jobs coming in the same pipeline, cyber security auditor or this or that. You know that if you have done your background research, that what does an incident analyst do, he works on tools like SIEM. Put that as the keyword and search for it. That I want to work on security, information and event management, I want to work on incident management. Keep your searches crisp. And how would you get such kind of thought process when you have a good foundation on what you need to do? For example, you are somebody who's clearly interested in penetration testing jobs, so you know that OWASP is a portal. OWASP are the top 10 web security vulnerabilities that any pen tester strives to find. So put that as keyword, try finding on that. There are a lot of job boards. At the same time, I think I also said it in my previous session that find a mentor who can guide you, who has already taken the first steps. And if you reach out to people on LinkedIn, I don't think anybody would say that, no, I don't want to help you, please do not talk to me, right? You have to put in efforts. First of all, prepare yourself, prepare your resume accordingly. If I see that, okay, this resume is from ABC college, he has done computer science engineering, yeah, fine, 80%. Okay, good. But why should I hire you into cybersecurity? What extra have you done? Have you highlighted it in your resume? What are your interests? That I have done, let's say, a CEH course, or I have done a security foundation course from so and so organization, or maybe in my final year project, I did something related to cyber, or I have a cyber blog, or I read these blogs. Even if in your interest section, what do we write? We write dancing, singing, all of that. Great. Personal interests are great. But when you're trying to sell yourself in on one specific skill, you can put it anywhere, man. Like, yeah, if you write blogging what? Are you a food blogger, fashion blogger, security blogger? So project your skills in the right way, on the right platforms, using the right keywords. I'm sure you will find enough jobs there. And cybersecurity is a domain where there's a scarcity of skilled professionals. So I think you will find good amount of jobs. That's what my take on this one.
No, I think Parul, that's extremely well said. I mean, in fact, as for people who are not aware, even Antwalk is running a cybersecurity job board on LinkedIn. Please do join that job board, guys. If you are looking for entry-level positions, we post jobs every day. Hopefully, it will be extremely helpful. Along with that, we also share a lot of videos from very good experts, including Parul, so that you guys can keep yourself, updated on what's happening in this particular domain. Parul, I'll just take a couple of minutes, since you have been talking nonstop for the last 35 minutes, I will just let you take a catch your breath. And in the meanwhile, I'll just, talk a little bit about Antwalk and also for the participants today, walk them through what we are doing at Antwalk. So guys, Antwalk is a platform where we are focusing on such upcoming digital first domains, whether it is cybersecurity, data engineering, or digital marketing. And we want to prepare the graduates and the entry level professionals who want to transition into cybersecurity by providing them with all the resources, especially coming from real working professionals such as Parul. Last week we had Anup from Symantec and so on, right? So every week we are having these sessions to help you make your choice better. And also, if you have made up your mind on how to get into the domain, then we have also got an experiential program that we have launched. It's a 16-week boot camp starting on May 1st. And I will just take a couple of minutes to walk you through what are the key highlights of the program, right? Like I said, it's a 16-week program where we will focus on uh, core aspects of cybersecurity, right from um, incident management to network security, uh, cloud security. We will go through some of those details. And these are topics that will be covered in a very engaging format through live classes. Uh, no longer is it like it's an online program, hai, so it's all recorded content. No, that's not the case. We have live classes every weekend for the next 16 weeks. During these classes, we have close to 8 to 10 really good working professionals from the industry in the cybersecurity practice coming and training you guys on practically how to execute on the job in each of these domains, right? Uh, so like I said, there are about 40 plus live classes. And then after each class, there will be a project that will be assigned to you guys. You can come, you need to execute it using the latest tools. Uh, and then at the end of the particular module, those projects will be evaluated, which you can, to Parul's point, if you do not have any prior experience, then this program gives you that opportunity to lay out 8 to 10 different projects that you have worked on in the next 16 weeks. And that will make your resume much stronger when you're applying for your first job. Uh, the program is starting on the 1st of May. Please register today. The link is provided here. We'll also put it in the chat box. For anybody who signs up today using Parol's code, there is an instant discount available. So please use that. Take a look at the program in detail, and we are, we will reach out to you. Our counselors will reach out to you and guide you on what's the, the best way you can sign up. I will let Kaushik spend a couple of minutes on going through the program itself and walking you through what are the key modules that we are going to be focusing on. Kaushik.
Thanks, Sriram. Good afternoon to you guys. So the course that we've created here has been tailor-made for a lot of freshers, graduates, people who've been trying to break into the industry. Because as freshers, even I've been there in that situation wherein you don't get hired, they ask you for experience, and unless and until you don't get experience, you don't get hired. So it's like a vicious circle. That's why, keeping in mind, we've tailor-made this content to ensure that you don't learn about 1, 2, or 3, but close to about 10 different important domains that kind of cybersecurity contains. Now, bear in mind, there are still many more domains attached to cybersecurity. but the ones that we've handpicked is something that you'll be able to present yourself better and, appear yourself in a much confident position in interviews to demonstrate what you contain, which starts from basic introduction to cybersecurity. Because always remember, most of the interviews for freshers they're not able to get through because they don't have their basics right. So we always believe in one thing: get your basics right. So we have designed the content in a way wherein we start from the basic level and we hit you to the level wherein you do online labs, practical labs, and get your hands dirty. So these contain about network security, cyber attacks, and Parul, who is today's speaker, is going to be heading the cyber attacks class for us. She's going to have a lot of interesting content that is going to be highlighted in that class. We're going to have web application security, incident management, which she's already been talking about. So if you really notice in the longer run, we're not just showing you some sort of pre-recorded videos. There are going to be 10 different experts who are going to be teaching you 10 different things. They're bringing their domain specialty. And also, you also get to learn about tools like Wireshark, Nmap. You also get to get your hands dirty with white paper research, articles, academic reports. And on the other hand, after incident management, you also learn about digital forensics, which talks about tools like Foremost, Autopsy, then in GRC. Because remember one thing, cybersecurity is just not about tools and knowledge. It's also about frameworks. It's also about compliance. It's also about risk. So, and identity and access management and cloud security, which is obviously gaining too much of significance these days, because as the pandemic is growing in its own size, everything is moving towards the cloud. So we're going to be teaching not just one or two things. As I said, you're going to get a 360-degree purview of what this course is all about. And I strongly urge people to go and check the content and register, just because this course will definitely stand as a great bridging point between you and the industry, especially for freshers and for intermediate professionals as well. So I urge you to just sign up for this as soon as possible, have a look through the content, and bear in mind, it's just not recorded videos. It's going to be live interactions, and it's going to be a lot of projects to be done. And trust me, the takeaway that you get after this class is something that you'll see for yourself as a potential. So as Sriram said, just check that code out to avail any discounts. We have multiple counselors with us. If you have any sort of doubts, reach out to them. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Kaushik. Parul, without further ado, let's get back to the AMA session quickly. There are the questions are not stopping. So I think the next question is, I am doing a job in identity and access management in cybersecurity, but I am interested in SOC or incident response. Will it be easy to shift the role internally? And what are any certifications required, if any, to learn and get into SOC?
Absolutely. So I've seen many such professionals. So identity and access management, if you're already part of, so I assume that you are good on the foundation, you're good on the basics, you're, you know that, what are the key criteria that you need to follow. What is a good password policy? It needs to be 12 characters. It has to have uppercase, lowercase. So you know how security looks like from different areas. You have seen at least one area of it, right? You have seen identity and access management. You can take that as the core and you can easily shift to incident management, because now, as I was talking about the phishing incident, so we go to IAM team to do a bulk password reset, right? So it's all about collaboration. When you're collaborating with even your SOC team, I'm sure that in your role as an identity and access management analyst, you would have collaborated with them. So talk to your peers, your managers, you reach out to them that I do have interest in this domain and how can I go ahead. So if I have to give advice from my side, it would be like, talk to your peers who are already into SOC. You can talk to even experts via social media channels like LinkedIn. You can talk to me, and I can guide you in few topics that you need to deal on a day-to-day basis, and then slowly take that shift ahead from there. That okay, start sitting with a incident analyst, monitor what do they do, and then gradually make a move in within your organization. Tell your supervisor that I'm good at identity and access management, but this is what my career going is like, and I would like to, get into this team. And I'm sure that once you have shown that rigor, because then the SOC manager would ask for an interview that, okay, you want to move in my team, but there are a few set of things that we want a person to have before joining our team. So do you have that? So always keep in mind that movement, be it directly for a fresher or from one domain to other, it is always smooth if you have the right foundation and if you have the right skill set. Because if a person is having the right skill set, what problem would I have in taking him in my team, right? So that's my 2 cents on that.
I think on that note, one of the questions that's coming is, what do you look for in freshers when hiring in your company?
So I think this was the kind of question that we took in our last AMA as well, and kind of touched upon in today's session as well, that your first resume scanning, how much are you interested in? So when we talk about a fresher, it's not only the technical skills, but it is also the soft skills that I personally look at. Because security is a domain where you have to have a lot of analytical thinking. You have to have a lot of, you should be capable of connecting those dots that, okay, this incident happened. Why did it happen? I'm seeing a malware. Where did it come from? So there was a phishing incident to which the person clicked. From there, it got downloaded. You have to have a very broad thinking spectrum. So I will give you scenario-based questions in the interview that, okay, let's say you are in XYZ situation. How would you react? If you give me one answer that, okay, if this happens, I will do this. End of the story, I'll sit quietly after that. No, that's not how cybersecurity person should think. You have to give, sorry, at least 2 different possibilities of the same scenario, that I can do this. Also, if that backfires, this is my plan B. Also, I can do this. So this is one thing that I look at. Then there are even soft skills that I would probably like to look at, because when you're collaborating with a lot of team, how good are you at teamwork? How good are you at communication? What are your foundations? So as a fresher, I do not expect that, you come into my office and start doing the forensic analysis of the incidents that happen on a day-to-day basis. No, I need you to have the right mindset. How does a cyber incident security analyst should have? That's what I probably look for when I hire freshers, and I do conduct such interviews actually.
Got it. I think that's very helpful. Yeah. I think touching on that note, right? If you had to call out the top 3 must-have professional skills outside of the core domain expertise for a cyber incident analyst, what would that be?
The first and foremost would be your ability to collaborate, your teamwork. Because as I have pointed it n number of times, when you're in the middle of an incident, maybe some of your peer has already dealt with a similar incident before. You spending 3 hours, okay, how does this incident happen? What do I do next? Rather reach out to people. Hey, this is what I'm stuck with. Have you seen this before? If he says yes, you can share the learnings. If he says no, you can both work together and drive that incident so that the turnaround time is less. Because in cybersecurity, time is really the money. If you are, we are like having time-based contracts with our client that within 1 hour you have to give the resolution, otherwise this is a penalty. So if you are really good in collaboration and communication, it is a very good skill that you should have. And second thing is, again, similarly related to this, your communication, your way of collaboration, and all of these skills, that how good you are at when you are in a team, when you are talking to, let's say, your customers, your clients, your incident responders. So communication and collaboration are the two key skills that you should have.
Got it. One question came, for me is like, how important is problem solving as a skill, a soft skill, right? Is there in cybersecurity? Like, how much of a role does that play? Because you mentioned, right, in a couple of minutes back, it's not just one answer that you're expecting, but you want to also have a follow-up, backup plans, and so on. So is problem solving, how important is it, and how should people think of making that as an important skill for themselves?
Yeah, definitely. So problem solving is all a part of your analytical thinking. And if I give you a problem, how many different ways in which you can solve it, right? So in cybersecurity, let's say if one of your defense fails. So these days there is a very famous term that if you Google about it, you will get to know about it more. Defense in depth.
Hmm.
So if my one channel of defense fails, my second channel of defense is supposed to take care of it, right? We have at least 6 to 7 layers of defenses in org security these days. That's a part of having a problem solving mind, having a problem solving capability. So if in my perimeter firewall, I have certain rules, my bad traffic should filter there. Cool. That's my first line of defense, problem solved. If not, the second line of defense is my internal firewall. Then comes my web gateway, VPN, so on and so forth. So
Hmm.
if you're having defense in depth, you are like you want the problem not to reach your system. That's why you have thought of 7 different ways to protect your organization from it. So when you're in a role of a security consultant, if you do not have that problem solving skill, you cannot suggest your clients how do they improve their security. So it's a really, really important skill that you should have. And for having this kind of skill, you should do a lot of reading, lot of security blogs are there, different case studies are available that, okay, for example, recently there was an attack by UNC 2452 APT group, and that was the SolarWinds hack, the famous one.
Hmm.
So many organizations fell trapped to it, FireEye, Microsoft, and many others. Every organization might have taken one or the other way of solving the problem. They are dealing with the same attacker, but depending on what their security posture is, their steps to resolve the problem would have been different. So if you as a security incident analyst, if you are currently in one company, tomorrow you go to other company and say, no, this in last organization I solved it like this, so it will happen like that only. So that will not work, right?
Got it.
So that's how important problem solving is.
No, makes sense. Yeah. Let me just maybe focus a couple of questions on what's happening currently, right? I mean, COVID has just created havoc both in personal and work life, right? So how has that changed your day in the life of as a cybersecurity professional?
Long answer short, we have got much more busier because everybody is working from home, and again, the security is now at more risk because when you, I mean, that's a basic psychology and also the defenses that we have in place. When you walk into an office, you're logging from a system there. You're already in a secure network. You're in a VPN, so you can't directly connect to the outside world as frequently as you do when you're sitting in your home. People are, working from home. People are staycationing. They're working from cafes and all. You're on public Wi-Fi. You're connecting your systems. You don't even know where you're giving your credentials. How securely are you connecting? And when you're part of the organization, like when you're going to office, you have that kind of thing that you have people around. If something goes wrong on a system, you immediately say that, hey, there's a screen ball moving on my screen. Did I click something wrong? Can you have a check? And it gets resolved. But when we are working remotely, the time is where we find a little more challenge. So let's say now I got a problem on my system. Now, if the system itself goes down, how do I communicate it to my team? I do make a call to them, then they log in, they cannot troubleshoot this and that. So, I mean, everything, and also everything has gone online. It has gone more digitized way. So it has its own both pros and cons. The pros, you can definitely see that, without moving an inch, you can do literally everything, be it you're getting your cab, getting your food, anything, everything is online. But with more pleasure comes the more responsibility as well, that yes, you have to find better ways to secure yourself. So long answer short, with COVID, we have got a lot of liberty to work from different places, be it networks. So, but we have to be always keep ourselves aware and secure, because the cyber threats are really on the rise. If you see the landscape for last 2 years, like the 2020 and 2021, I think 6 billion was the kind of global turnover that attackers had
Wow.
in their bucket doing cyber attacks to different organizations.
Got it. Got it. One question in the domain of incident management, Parul, what does one expect to grow into, right? What do you see the job hierarchy as, and what is a typical career path for anybody who gets into the entry level position?
So if you're talking only about incident management, because they are two different fields. If you're talking only about how to grow as a cyber incident responder, then there is a different path. If you're talking about a cyber incident responder, right now you're just the first thing as an L1 analyst you were doing, you were working on the alerts. As a step ahead, you will be writing rules to create those alerts, right? Now I know what are the different kind of alerts I need to monitor, how to monitor them. Or you can do the advanced level of investigation, just rather than just following steps 1, 2, 3, you go up to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and whatnot. So you can go to L2 level, you can start writing rules on different security tool sets as we discussed in the beginning of the session. You can be a forensic investigator and you can accordingly grow your path there. But if you're typically into incident management, so I mean, we did not touch much upon the incident management, but as a key takeaway, I'll drive you through the incident management life cycle. So there are like typical 5 phases in an incident management. The first thing is the preparation of the incident. You are setting your tools, your rules, everything, so that if there is any anomaly that happens, you should be in a situation to detect those, right? So the first part is the preparation. Next is your identification and detection that, okay, the incident or the alert has happened. Now you start analyzing it. What is the scope? What is the impact? Then you go into further step. How do you contain that situation? How do you eradicate? What are the recovery methods and what are the lessons learned? And finally do the closure of the incident. So as an incident management analyst, you are involved in one of the 2 steps. But as an incident management manager, you're involved right from the beginning to the closure of the life cycle. You need to know what are the tools that you are using for monitoring of the incidents, for logging of the incidents. Are they done in a proper fashion or not? You can be an incident auditor as well. So there are different hierarchies depending on what domain or expertise you get into.
Got it. I think Sudha has a question here. What are the security incidents that a person who is working from home can be attacked with? Do you have any security precautions given to such employees?
Yeah, I think it can be any security attack that you can come through. So the example that we took in the beginning of our session, the phishing that I spoke about. Yeah, I'm sitting in my home. I got an email from my payroll department. I might actually click it, right? So what is your security? As a security aware person, you will not just click an email, just having a look at it. You always have a habit of hovering over the email using your mouse so that you see the actual email. So you see the actual URL. Where is it taking you to, right? So if it is your organization email, or if it is your organization domain, it would look different from what your attacker will send you, right? An attacker cannot purchase your org domain. So there are a lot of cybersecurity good practices that a person should know of, and these are the kind of things that you get to know when you are having a good foundation classes if you attend. And then there are attacks like when I spoke of even the clickjacking example that I took. So you are shopping on a website and you got a pop-up that, hey, you win a lottery of 1 lakh, please click here and give your bank details. And if you're a person who do that, then definitely you're not a security aware person. So these are small attacks, and there are even deep level of attacks that can happen as a part of this. Maybe you just clicked on that link and nothing happened, but at the back end, malicious payload got downloaded, and now it is propagating in your network through your company network and collecting the data from all the machines, giving it to your competitors. So do you see the kind of impact it can create? So it's not about just looking at the immediate impact of the incident that, okay, I clicked and something bad could have happened but didn't happen, so yeah, you forgot it. No, as a security aware person, you will report it to your security administrator that, yes, I clicked on something, nothing really happened to my system, but can you please have a quick look that everything is all right? Do open a security incident in such scenarios. So These are the kind of best practices which every organization gives as a part of their induction training, because security is really important. Not everybody knows about it.
Got it. Got it. Couple of questions in terms of, I think, programming languages, right? Which languages are best for learning to start your career in cybersecurity?
Sure. So if you see as a entry level career, it is good to have knowledge on scripting languages like Python, because a lot of malicious codes, they are downloaded on systems in the form of small scripts like PowerShell scripts that keep running on the back end, and that's where the attacker kind of creates a botnet. Now if your system is a part of the bot, it will be communicating to the attacker servers, and from there it will be doing the commands. So scripting language is something that you can take up if you have interest, but this is more so when you are, let's say, you're going specifically into a field like reverse engineering of the malwares, or into forensics, where you are actually decoding a malware. And to decode a malware, you need to know how was it coded in the first place, right? As an incident responder analyst, L1 analyst, if you're a fresher, foundation and all those problem solving, critical thinking, and reacting to a situation, how do you write a SOC playbook, these are the kind of things that would help you more, rather than having a very detailed experience over a language like C or Java or something like that.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
that's what I would suggest.
I think, Ritvik, I think that answers your question as well. I mean,
I have one question. Hello.
go ahead, Rakesh.
Yeah. So how I can relate this with data science, because I'm data science developer. So how can I relate it with data science?
Perfect question, Rakesh. And so I think if you have heard the session throughout, we have been talking a lot about logs. We have been talking a lot about data that we are collecting from so many machines. So in the example I gave, we had almost 40,000 employees in the organization. So you know how many desktops, laptops, servers, how many data would be flowing in. So if as a data analyst, if as a data scientist, you know how to make best sense out of that data. So we use Splunk as a SIEM tool, but even for big data analytics, you might be using Splunk as a tool. So how you can connect those dots, how can you form those patterns? I'll give you one example. So I was working with a retailer client, just like you have, I will not disclose the name, but just like you have Amazon, Myntra, Flipkart, right? And all these retailers, they do have sale periods. And what typically happens during sale period is generally the traffic is very high because a lot of people are shopping on their website. And that's where even the competitors, they hire hackers to launch attacks so that the website goes down, or the business goes down, and so forth. So if you as a data analyst, you have put a threshold out of all your analysis that on a regular day, this is the usual traffic of customers look like. On past sale periods, this is how the traffic flow looks like. And now today there is something abnormal. There is a different kind of spike that I see, which is not similar to what I've seen in the past. You can just give it to security team that, okay, this is what I found as an anomaly. This could be actually a sign of an attack. So you can definitely use your data science mind in cybersecurity. I hope my example might have given you at least a brief idea how you can use that.
Yeah, but you need a particular data. That data already our company give. Okay. For our side, you cannot access any data. You cannot go and collect the data. Our requirement is totally different. Most of the requirement is whatever client want, that data you have to work. Almost you have the data like that. Then data scientist start to the work it. Okay.
But still you're dealing with the data, right? If you know the patterns, how to find an anomaly in your data, even that is something that anomaly could be for n number of reasons. It could be due to a faulty system, but it could also be due to a security incident. So when you're a data analyst, I expect you that you know how to analyze a data, right?
Yes.
So that's where you can use that skill to analyze the security logs as well. Security logs are nothing but security data from different systems.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Parul. I will go through that. I will check it.
Sure. All the best, Rakesh.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Laura. I think we are already beyond our 60 minutes time. Parul, if it's okay, can we just take a couple of more questions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. Uh, so Imran is asking, what is SOAR technology which is being used in SOC nowadays?
Yeah, so it's all about security, orchestration, automation, and response. So that's what SOAR is about. So we talked about a lot of phases in incident management, right? We talked about the how does the day look like. So there are a lot of tasks that you can really automate, right? Automation is the need of the hour, even in all the domains, and even in the domain of security. So, for example, I, as an analyst, when an incident happened, I feel that okay, this URL could be potentially suspicious, but I need to check it on 5 different tools. That okay, what is the IP rating or the reputation rating I get? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it good? Is it bad? So, if I, as an analyst, I copy that URL, Control C, do the Control V on first tool, then on second tool, third tool, fourth tool, five tool. Do you think is it a best way to do your job? No, right? You will just write a script so that you put the URL just once and it will fetch the details from all the 5 platforms into a single Excel sheet. That's all about automation and orchestration. Similarly, when you are automating your SIEM tools to security incident management platform, for example, you have done the automation. There are so many tools like Demisto. There are so many tools like IBM Resilient or Palo Alto Cortex. So they are doing the entry level, or they are doing the first level of analysis also for you, that you have given the set of instructions that okay, if there is an incident, acknowledge this incident and assign it to an analyst, do the pre-checks, and then put it in my queue, right? The L2 queue for further analysis. So SOAR is the need of the hour. It's getting, because now we are approaching. It's not the SOC that we had 10 years back, that one analyst is doing the documentation task, other analyst is doing the analysis, third analyst is reviewing. How of the work is done by the tools these days. So that's where SOAR comes in. It's all about automation and orchestration.
Got it. Parul, this has been a fantastic session. I think you answered so many questions. First of all, thank you for that. One last question from my side. Right? What advice will you give to your younger self if you were trying to get into this profession today? How would you go about, getting your entry into cybersecurity?
I think I was lucky, I should say, to get into it as I wanted to. But not everybody can have similar, good mentors. But I would say that, if you really have rigor for something, please put efforts in that. In the beginning, you might feel, even in the beginning, I had those kind of notions that, it's a very demanding job. I don't even know whether I want to do it or not. But do not lose that pace, do not lose that hope. And that's what probably I did. So I think I would like to pat my back for that. So cybersecurity is a very demanding field. You might be, if there is a security incident, you might be, let's say, sitting for next 12 hours straight working on that incident. So prepare your mind for things like that. And if you really want to make your career in this, it's a very booming field. Uh, just have your attitude right, get your foundations right, and I'm sure you will go in this field.
Perfect. Thank you so much again. I think there are more questions coming in, guys. There are, check out our previous webinars. It's all available on Antwalk. There's a lot of these questions which are already addressed there. And if you have any follow-up questions, please write to us at support@Antwalk. We'll try and get the answers addressed by our expert panel. Once again, thanks a lot, Parul, for taking time out on a Sunday, especially in this environment, and guiding these students and early professionals, into how to crack into cybersecurity and also into incident management as a domain. Once again, thank you. Thanks a ton. We will be hosting more such events, folks. Please continue to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and also check out our job board. There are multiple posts coming out every day. Hopefully, it will be a big help to you guys. And like I said, we are launching our May batch on cybersecurity. It's a 16-week program starting on 1st May. So if you guys are interested and are excited to get into this domain, have access to tons of experts and quality projects, make sure you sign up today, and our counselors will reach out to you and get you onboarded ASAP. Thanks again, everybody, for the time, and have a good weekend.
Thank you, everyone, and all the best.